All right. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Fighting COVID-19 with Nutrition. And our special guest for this episode is Susan Cowdrick. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's a blessing to have you here on our show here. And we know that you have a great testimony to share with us today about how nutrition has impacted your life. And we're anxious to hear about how the blessings have multiplied in your own experience with these health principles. So without further ado, I'll just pass it on to you and you can share what you have for us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me here today. It's a real blessing to be able to share my story. And I have a lot of passion for sharing my story just because my life has changed so dramatically just since I've changed to a whole food plant-based diet. The way that it really starts is just really leaning on God and leaning on the Holy Spirit and really asking for God to lead me on my path in my life. It's amazing. I just marvel sometimes when I look back of just how things have unfolded and how things happen in God's time and happen when I'm really willing to make a change or willing to listen, or I'm ready to hear whatever information I need to hear is always His way. So it's so important that I just every morning try to just glorify God and pray and do a daily devotion and really express my gratitude. Even during these difficult times, there's so many windows of wonderful things that have just happened, just really improving my relationship with God. And I'm extremely grateful for that. And really looking for God's will, not my will. I really tend to mess things up when I try to get in there and try to control things. And it's easier sometimes said than done to be that patient person and let things happen in God's time. But in doing that, wonderful things actually can happen. God works miracles and really works in my life. And things happen that I could never possibly do myself. And I give all this glory to God and just really helping me stay the course and be able to keep eating, because the society really is got a lot of pressures and really following the status quo of what everyone else is doing isn't always in the best interest of health. So it's really, really important to keep open-minded and really look to the Word when you're looking at ways to really run your life. And specifically when it comes to just food, what God originally intended for us, it's clear in Genesis 29 and 30, where He really, going back to the Garden of Eden, wanted us to eat plants. So really just leaning and using the Word when it comes to what do I need to do for my life. You know, the other thing, just off the top of my head, even just looking at Daniel 1, the first chapter, I mean, here's a book that really talks about the end times and how does it start out? Daniel is he's being obedient to God, first of all. And even though he's given all this food that the king has offered, he still stays steadfast and sticks to a healthy eating plan of really eating fruits and vegetables and staying plant-based, and how much stronger and able he was to take on the challenges that lied ahead of him. It's just astounding. So I really look to those examples. And then even in more detail, just just the councils on diet and foods that Ellen White has put together, where I would walk my dog and listen to it, and I was just marveled early on my journey changing to plant-based. It was just amazing just to hear the different things. But before I get too heavily into it, I think I probably should start out just talking about where I was before I became whole food plant-based. And the reason I share this is that someone that right now maybe is in a situation where they have diabetes themselves maybe can identify with some of the things of how I was feeling. First of all, I'm not a tiny girl right now, but I was obese. I was really obese. At the time before I changed whole food plant-based, I was using food really to manage my blood sugar and manage my fatigue issues that I had. I had severe spikes in blood sugar because not only did I just suffer from insulin resistance, but I also were hypoglycemic, where because I wasn't able to get the nourishment I needed into my cells, not only would my blood sugar drop, but it would spike and
Hmm.
would
Wow.
go back and forth. And I became very, very irritable. And later on, my husband would tell me everywhere we would go in the car, he would have to have a plan on just where to stop to get me a snack because my
Hmm.
blood sugar would drop so low. I would just get so incredibly irritable that I was not a pleasure to be around. Let's just say that.
Huh.
Um,
Man.
so I had to eat every 2 hours. And it was interesting when I went to the doctor, I actually found out there was a medical reason why I had to constantly eat. And you know what? If you're just eating a standard American diet and you're eating every 2 hours, it's so easy just to balloon up in weight.
Mm.
And
Mm.
my body mass index was not pleasant. You know, my husband and I have lost over 100 pounds together, changing
Wow.
to this way of eating. So
Mm.
even though I'm not tiny, I really look to more my health of what's going on inside my body, not so much my body image and what the world says it should look like, but
Mm.
just what my blood work numbers say. You know, how healthy is my heart? What
Mm.
is my blood pressure like? Those are the things that really are more concerning to me when I think of health. Um, but anyway, I got to the point where I had tightness in my chest. I almost think I was on the verge of heart problems and a heart, you know, maybe even a heart attack at one point. When I was exerting myself, that's kind of what gave me the push to even go to the doctor, was the tightness in my chest. Not only that, respiratory issues. I was on an inhaler. I could not breathe. So between the tightness in my chest and the difficulty breathing, it was difficult to just exert myself. I would snore like crazy. I'm not proud of this, but you know, I was put on a CPAP machine, but I would snore so loud I would wake myself up.
Oh.
So these are all the things I was dealing with. I had neuropathy in my feet, the pain in my feet, the inflammation,
Mm.
even in my hands. I can't even begin to tell you just how uncomfortable it was. Just constant pain all the time, you know. And I know if that would have progressed, um, the ramifications of what neuropathy can do, you actually can start to lose your limbs, which is
Oh.
really scary to me.
Yeah, for sure. Goodness.
um, the inflammation, just the pain, my whole body would pretty much ache. I had swollen joints. My knees would just hurt all the time, even my hands, my fingers. And typically at that point, I was listening to what the media was telling me, and I really thought I was eating healthy. I was eating low carbs, a lot of vegetables. If I was eating meat, and I was eating meat at that time, it was always organic meat,
Mm.
something that was lean. I thought chicken or turkey was a good way to go. I was eating a lot of yogurts, you know, hearing how good yogurt is for you, and starting my day off eating quite a few eggs, not
Mm.
knowing that the cholesterol was so bad, because a lot of the reports that I was hearing said it's okay to eat eggs now, that, you know, you don't really need to worry about that. So I was really heavily influenced by media. Um, and I've kind of tried to get away from any kind of marketing and media, like a TV program, for example. We'll record and go right through the commercials just so I don't have to see the fatty, juicy food that's being put in front of me, because the media has a huge role in influencing the way I was before I was I was diagnosed, and before I changed to plant-based.
Mm.
So anyway, what really got me to the point of I needed to do something was I was really trying my best to keep up with my kids. And I had a little job where I was working and filling grocery store orders just to get some exercise. And I was walking up to 5 miles a day. I needed a cart to hold on to. And like I said, it was still uncomfortable because of the neuropathy I was getting. I was working through it. And the thing I was trying to do still with my kids was wakeboarding. They're all avid wakeboarders.
Hmm.
And I got to a point where it took me years to be able to get up, and I really struggled with it, but I was still trying to do it. And I could not go very far. I was not doing very well. And at one point, as soon as I got up, and it takes a lot of energy to get up, a lot of upper body strength, I had to drop the rope and fall. And my husband came around and said, "What is wrong with you?" And I guess I needed to hear someone else say, "What is wrong with you?" Because there was such an obvious problem that something was wrong. I said, "I cannot breathe." And it really scared me like nothing else ever scared me before. So then I went to the doctor and had my blood work done, and my sugar was elevated, my cholesterol was elevated. Really bad news, where the primary doctor said, "I'm going to send you an endocrinologist who is a doctor that specializes in diabetes and thyroid and some other kind of endocrinology kind of things."
Hmm.
So I went into the doctor's office. First of all, it took me a little while to get an appointment. When I got there, the waiting room was full of people. Everybody in there just about was obese. There was barely a place to sit. So I got in, and then as the reception person asked me to come with them, I didn't get to go to another room to see my doctor. They sent me to another waiting room where there were more people. So there's so many people that have diabetes,
Hmm.
they couldn't even fit us all in one waiting room. There was a special
Right.
waiting room just for my doctor.
Uh-huh.
So that was kind of shocking, and I looked at a more grandiose view of just how did I get here, and how did all these people get here? Like, I just saw something was really, really wrong.
Hmm.
And when my doctor came in, it felt like my doctor was pretty much desensitized from looking at everyone as an individual, that it was cookie cutter, that it was a revolving door. And he had seen so many diabetic people. He pretty much just said, kind of like, "You're obese, you're eating too much. You need to just push yourself away from the table. You need to move more." I said, "No, I don't need to move more. I walk 5 miles a day. That is not my problem. I'm
Oh.
not like your other fat people. I'm
Hmm.
not like your other fat people. Something is really, really wrong with me." And my eyes started to well up. I started to have tears. I
Hmm.
was so frustrated. And here I just felt like, here's just someone else just not really identifying something's causing this problem. And by me giving him a little bit of pushback, he ordered this 5-hour glucose tolerance test, where I'm not certain he would have ordered it if I didn't say something's really wrong with me and I'm already moving. So I went on this 5-hour glucose test, and when the nurse came in, and there's a series of little sugary drinks you've got to drink, and then you've got to wait a half hour in the waiting room, and then they go back and test your blood again, and it goes on for 5 hours. Well, at one point when I came back, she looked really frightened. She locked me in the chair, and then she went over to a manual and started reading a manual, and didn't say anything, and then just walked up to me and said, "Stay right there. Do not move. I have to go get the doctor. I'm not sure we can continue this test."
Oh my.
We went and got the doctor and came back and said, "Your sugar has dropped so far. It was down to, I believe it was 62 is what she said." And
Hmm.
she said, "The doctor said, since you haven't passed out or you don't have any other symptoms at this point, if we closely monitor you, he wants you to go one more half hour and finish up this test." So sure enough, someone sat with me for the extra half hour, and my sugar came up to 70 on its own. And she said, "Thank goodness it did that, because we can now eliminate pancreatic cancer."
Oh. Right.
So that really shook me up too. And
Yeah.
even though I did not have an appointment to see my doctor, and again, all these people are just filling up all these waiting rooms, he dropped everything to see me and pretty much said, "We've got to start you on metformin right now. You're hypoglycemic. You have insulin resistance. We need to get you to a dietitian." and I'm going to follow up and see you in a couple weeks. So went to the dietitian and started my metformin, and the metformin's horrible. It just makes your stomach feel terrible. And the dietitian got me started on a diet that was recommended by the American Diabetes Association. And it really was just really cutting portions. I could only have 1,600 calories a day. And to really manage my blood sugar, she had me eating 2 hours every day. So I can't even imagine living my life this way. The American Diabetes Association really does not believe that diabetes can be reversed. They're really in the business to help people manage their diabetes. If you go out to their website, even today, they have a lot of information out there with COVID-19, but it isn't to help people get better nutrition and try to build up their immune system. It's all about how to communicate your condition to your doctor if you are diagnosed, so then they can treat you and really have, your candy with you and really know where your ketones are and really just managing what you've got and making sure you're taking your medications. So it's kind of a dead end street. And for me, living that kind of life, it was unbearable. I mean, I could do nothing but focus on food almost every waking hour. And then I was afraid my blood sugar would drop too low when I was sleeping, and that I would almost go into a coma where I actually had to eat, and I had to stick to 1,600 calories because they wanted the weight to come off. And if you just figure out eating every 2 hours and only eating 1,600 calories, it does not go very far. So I started to just gravitate more towards a lot of vegetables. When you start to look at what doesn't have a lot of calories, it is naturally your vegetables. It is, I ate berries, and my doctor wanted me to eat a small portion of oatmeal every morning because it's very sustainable. And that was probably the best thing I got out of that whole experience. But I was just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And during that whole time, I wound up getting the flu. And not the coronavirus that we know, but just, the regular flu. And I was stuck inside and had to go to the doctor because my immune system was just so low and I was in such a bad place that I wound up watching daytime TV, which I normally don't watch. And there was a gentleman that came on the Megyn Kelly show. His name was Josh LaJohny. And he had 3 other people on the show with him. And collectively, these 4 men lost 750 pounds together.
Wow.
So needless to say, they really got my attention because the American standard approach to fighting diabetes is you lose your weight, you lose your diabetes. And that's not true. I lost some weight, but I'm still not tiny by any means. And when I changed to plant-based, I actually was able to reverse the diabetes before all the weight came off. So it's really about addressing the insulin resistance. But anyway, long story short, these gentlemen talked about their stories, heart disease, diabetes, and they really talked about everyone watching this movie called Forks Over Knives. So I'm not sure if you ever saw that movie, but I highly recommend any of the viewers take a few minutes and check it out. It's available even on Netflix. But it's an incredible movie, and it has a lot of scientific evidence as to why a plant-based diet is so healthy. So I was telling my husband about it later on, and that day we decided to watch Forks Over Knives. And there was so much compelling scientific evidence to show the effects, the helpful effects of a plant-based diet. We would have thought it was pandemonium suicide for us to keep eating the way we were. We were just on such a bad path. So that day, we changed to a plant-based diet and never looked back. We changed pantry items over, and it was the best decision we ever made. I can't even believe to tell you that I would say the first week, I felt a little sluggish, probably because A lot of it was just the toxins leaving your body. But I would say within 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops, 3 weeks, I felt like a different person. I had
Wow.
so much energy, and I started to stabilize. I didn't keep falling asleep after I ate and didn't get so shaky every time I didn't eat. My blood sugar was starting to quickly stabilize. And I was checking my blood sugar. I had a little blood sugar prick test, and my numbers were getting so much better so quickly.
Mm.
And the weight just started falling off. I struggled with weight for probably 20 some years, and to see this just kind of melt away, it was staggering. Not only the problem was really just eating eating meat and dairy. The problem also was just eating any kind of fat. So I stayed away from olive oil. I stayed away from even vegetable margarines and things like that, and oil-laden salad dressings, and really just focused on eating a whole food plant-based diet. There were all kinds of different cooking techniques where I learned to saute with water. And there was no type of compromise when it came to the food that I was eating. It was
Wow.
just really amazing,
Uh-huh.
just how delicious it was. And I was really afraid that I would get bored with the type of food. Like, how am I going to do this? And I was really looking at it more one day at a time and just taking it a meal by meal. And, I had to try something, because just eating every 2 hours, finishing a meal, thinking what my next meal was going to be like, I just couldn't live that way. It was just not sustainable for me. I needed to reverse this, not just manage my disease. So really, the way that I started to eat, I would continue with the oatmeal, because it's amazing how that really can stabilize your blood sugar. Instead of throwing bananas or something high glycemic into it, what I actually did was use berries, which is very low glycemic, and I didn't need to add sugar or anything. I would put a little bit of cinnamon on there, and it was delicious. Apples were a really go-to for me. Apples were incredible for a snack.
Mm.
Again, they don't shoot your blood sugar. And the fiber in apples is really the secret, I think, to being able to sustain yourself, because it encapsulates any kind of natural sugar. So you're not getting the spikes.
Huh.
So fiber was really, really a key. That was the key, probably why oatmeal is so successful as well. And then I love salads. So even when I was not feeling so well, I would eat a lot of salads. So I would continue with that. But instead of putting a greasy, oily dressing on, I learned how to make really yummy dressings that just don't have any oil in it. Or I was really more interested in maybe putting a salsa or something on it. If I put black beans, I'd put more of a Mexican theme. And then I would, if I were at a snack in the afternoon, have carrot sticks or something like that with a low-fat hummus. And then just had really delicious dinners, like with a bean chili or a vegetable stir fry, whole grain brown rice. There was just so many delicious things where I kept all the flavor profiles that I love so much,
Mm.
but I didn't need meat to really just transfer those flavors. So the food was just outstanding. And
Wow.
there's no reason to feel deprived eating this way. It really is just amazing.
Yeah, it makes
Um,
my mouth water already. That's cool.
but again, it's just, I still go back to my doctor, and I think at first he was a little apprehensive about, is she going to really do this? And I don't have any patients like this. And the last time I went, my husband went with me. He asked him, how many patients do you have that are like this, that's reversed it? And he said, I only have 2, and you're one of the 2. So
Huh.
I'm hoping that he eventually, gets some more people that are more plant-based. And he's working with the diabetes communities with support groups. So really trying to influence just my testimony and just what he's telling people. And I've shared my information with him. But I go back once a year. He took me off my medication. Last time I was there, he was asking me, "Are you checking your blood sugar?" I said, "No." He said, "Good, because you don't need to."
Hmm.
So I think, he has a grin whenever he comes in the room. I think it's a joy for him to see that just by changing nutrition and changing your lifestyle and your diet, that you can reverse your type 2 diabetes. So it's been really wonderful. It's been almost 2.5 years now, and I still follow up with him once a year. I'm still getting my blood check just once a year now, just to make sure that I'm maintaining everything. But I have not veered off this healthy eating plan, and feel that it's very sustainable and easy to do. And we have really made it a routine. I mean, I think that's probably the secret to making any kind of change, is just, you first want to start by making a routine, and then you want to actually build it into habits where you're doing it over and over. So, starting out, repetition really, I found, was my friend just in building these new habits. Later on, we started to look at some of the things that maybe were Achilles heel, and there were some food addictions. I was probably more addicted to like an oily chip or something, and my husband just had this thing for peanut butter. So even though we were plant-based, we really had to work to make sure that we weren't eating foods that were too fatty.
Yeah.
We still get our healthy fats from nuts, but then again, it's encapsulated with that fiber. We just don't eat a lot of them, just because we're really trying to keep our insulin resistance in check, and really making sure we're keeping our cells free from fat. As soon as you let your cells be free from fat, it's a big word I'll use. It'll be the only big word I use today, but it's called intramyocellular lipids. And what that is your cell is just clogged with fat. So your body can't bring the insulin can't bring all the glucose into your cells. As soon as you free up that fat, you're just like, wow, you've got all this energy, you feel great, and you're really getting all those nutrients to your cells that you need so desperately. So it's so important. I don't want to minimize just what even olive oil can do. I always thought olive oil was so healthy, and I do get my healthy olive oil, but I eat it with olives, which is encapsulated again. But just by keeping your cells nice and clean, and now making your body more insulin sensitive instead of insulin resistant, that's really the key. And I have just enjoyed doing all the things I love to do. It was funny seeing my kids after I changed to plant-based and was doing this for a while. My wakeboarding improved from only maybe going 100 yards. Well, you should have seen their face the first time they came out with me, because not only was I going yards, but I was going miles now.
Wow.
And we would go around a turn, and they would wait. They're all thinking, who's going to go next? They want to just have a tug, and they want to start wakeboarding themselves. But no, we go around the bend, and I'm still skiing. And we go around another bend, and I'm still skiing. We go around another bend, I'm still there. And literally, I have gone from going maybe 200 yards to 2 miles. So that's been wonderful. I've picked up hiking, really enjoy that, and really have found this as my passion, where this is just giving me my life back all over again. I want it for everybody else. I want to share it. My doctor, I showed her my driver's license, and next week when I present, most likely I'll show you some pictures of just what the before and afters look like. My doctor said, you look like you're 15 years younger. And quite honestly, I feel 15 years younger. So it's not only just not being able to manage all of the eating every 2 hours, but it's being able to have such a better quality of life. My mind is so much sharper. My connection with God is so much better, where I just feel like my relationship is closer, and I'm dialed in to really just keep in the word and hear what his will is for me. So with that being said, I think this is so important now more than ever, because people that are really having problems with COVID-19 right now are the people that have pre-existing lifestyle diseases.
Yeah.
And the way to really do it is by a plant-based diet. When I present next week as well, I want to share a little bit from the 1918 archives, Adventist archives, of just what some of their experiences were going through the Spanish flu and the pandemic back then.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. I even have a handout that you can share with the viewers if you like.
Yes,
It
that's great.
just has a write-up from a local newspaper of just the miraculous approach of just how healthy everyone stayed
Hmm.
just by following some of the basic principles.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
share more with you that, next week when we get together again.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, Susan. Yeah, and it's really inspiring to hear about how when you get into a lifestyle like this and start, using these plant-based foods that are more filling, less, you get more bang for buck, of course, with the calories that you are consuming, but you don't have to see it as a slump or see it as boring. You can still, like you said, keep up the profiles of food that you enjoy, have that taste that satisfies you so well and that you personally like, but just present it in a way that's more nutritious, and that's awesome. But I am looking especially forward to that episode where you can share history-wise how this plant-based and biblical health principles have served people in the past during another pandemic. So that'd be very fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to probably share too just some of the things that I really find delicious and simple to prepare, because I
Mm,
think that's some of the biggest challenges. How do you make this fit into your life? And
mm,
it's just like the food itself is a new routine. Preparing the food is a different routine as well. So
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to sharing some of those things and really look forward to that. So
Yeah, amen.
thank you again for allowing me to participate with these series. They're so beneficial. So really praise God, and then want good health for everybody.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself, and I'm sure our audience will as well. And thank you so much, Susan, for joining us here. And that was an inspiring testimony of how we can be empowered in the midst of a situation like this, and we don't have to be afraid, and we can look forward to more energy as well. That's a huge blessing. So thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you, Pastor. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure. I think we'll sign off at this point. So thank you everyone for watching, and we'll be back next week with another episode. God bless.
God bless you too.